Imagine unlocking an ancient evil so twisted that even the devil himself is taking notes. Today we are diving into a blood-curdling nightmare where a simple birthday flex turns into a total demonic slaughter. Buckle up, because this story is low-key so cooked up you won't be able to look away for a single second. We start off with Dr. Benjamin Price recording a terrifying audio log about the legendary Necronomicon. He explains that this unholy book of the dead is definitely not just some spooky bedtime myth. Some arrogant scholars ignored his warnings and recited passages, unleashing literal flesh-possessing demons into our world. Luckily, Dr. Price uncovered a mysterious relic of incredible power that can send these evil creeps straight back to hell. He locked the artifact away behind ancient runes and powerful hexes to keep it hidden forever. He warns that if the seal ever breaks, these bloodthirsty entities will smell it and destroy everything in sight. And trust me, when a historian prays for God's help, you know the situation is completely doomed. Cut to two bros hanging out on a boat, laughing about some crazy guy running down the street in his underwear. Leo's phone keeps ringing, but his friend Jared tells him to ignore his anxious girlfriend. Jared just wants to chill on the lake without any toxic relationship drama ruining their vibe. Leo tells Jared to get off his back, but Jared threatens to abandon him if he picks up. Jared begs him to hold his ground, but Leo folds immediately and answers the call like a complete simp. Leo quickly rushes off the phone so they can finally pack up and head back to shore. Suddenly, Jared hears something bizarre creeping around in the dark water nearby. Jared steps out of sight, and Leo calls out thinking his buddy is just messing with him. Out of nowhere, Jared screams out in absolute agony as an invisible force attacks him. Leo sprints over in a panic, desperately trying to pull his friend back into the boat. Before he can even react, Jared is violently yanked into the pitch-black water and disappears forever. Before we can even process the horror, a chaotic rap track blasts to kick off the story. Next, we transition to a high-end club where a group of elite friends is throwing a birthday party for Joseph. The rich host will pops expensive champagne, bragging about how much money he spent on the party. Everyone clinks their glasses, giving Joseph that ultimate main character energy for his special day. However, Will's girlfriend Alice is already super wasted and blowing whistle sounds across the table. Will pulls her aside, asking her to slow down her drinking before she embarrasses him. Alice dismisses him with an attitude, shouting that tonight is strictly about good vibes. They hand Joseph a classy gift box, claiming it is a joint present from both of them. Inside is a luxury Belvoir pen worth well over $1,000. Will explains that he bought the pen to passive-aggressively nudge Joseph into finishing his delayed novel. Joseph low-key feels called out and awkwardly defends his slow writing progress. Will doubles down on his arrogance, claiming everyone just needs a lit push from a successful guy like him. That's when another female guest speaks up and hands Joseph a second, personal present. Joseph opens it to find a gorgeous black and white framed photograph that leaves him stunned. The guest modestly says her photo is nothing compared to Will's hyper-expensive luxury pen. She leans in for a polite hug, poking fun at how overly affectionate Americans can be. Alice suddenly drops a super foul sexual joke, killing the happy mood instantly. Will snaps in front of everyone, demanding Alice ease up on her aggressive drinking. Alice yells back that she is just trying to party, starting a massive drama scene. She storms outside for a smoke, telling her friend to promise they will never get married. Will follows her into the alley, complaining to a buddy about how toxic Alice acts. He reveals they are trying to have a baby, yet she refuses to stop smoking cigarettes. The club worker Mike steps out to ask for a cigarette, breaking up their heated argument. Will snaps at Mike, telling him to stop calling him boss while subtly flexing his authority. Will then turns back to Alice and accuses her of talking garbage about him to his employees. He slams her for making an embarrassing public scene at his exclusive club. Alice calls him out for always framing her as a crazy, hysterical alcoholic. Will gets straight up abusive, ordering her to stop behaving like a spoiled child. When he tries grabbing her arm, Alice aggressively shoves him away. Will gaslights her hard, claiming she forces him to lose his temper and act like a monster. Done with his red flags, Alice tells him to go to hell and walks away. His friends notice how drunk Will is and try to snatch his car keys before he drives off. Spiteful and drunk, Will ignores their warnings, hops in his vehicle, and speeds off into the night. Later, a totally lost Will stumbles into creepy woods where he hears weird noises in the shadows. Scared out of his mind, he pulls out his phone to call emergency services. Suddenly, demonic voices echo from the darkness, telling him he will lead them to his family. Will panics in pure horror as sinister shadows circle around him. The evil entities begin reciting ancient Necronomicon incantations straight from hell. Will screams at the top of his lungs, desperately begging for someone to save him. The malevolent demon possesses his body in a horrific flash of darkness. Sometime later, a doctor is examining a deeply traumatized young woman. She confesses that no sleep meds can block out the terrifying nightmares haunting her mind. She mentions that Joseph is currently hiding out at his family's isolated vacation home. The doctor suddenly spots a loaded handgun resting inside one of the drawers. She reveals the weapon belongs to Joseph, who bought it just to feel like a tough guy. An elderly relative named Polly wanders through the house, completely lost in her own world. The room is filled with heavy grief as the family tries to maintain a fake sense of normalcy. Loud construction noise hums outside, threatening to ruin the gloomy atmosphere. We then cut to a somber funeral service taking place outdoors. A priest steps up to give a speech honoring a tragedy that just shook the group. It turns out Will Price suffered a gruesome, unexplained death that fateful night. The mourners gather around his casket to pay tribute to his sudden passing. The priest reminds them that Will live on through their memories forever. But with the Necronomicon demon now unleashed, Will's tragic death is only the beginning of the carnage. The funeral service kicks off as the pastor tries to comfort the grieving crowd. Susan takes the stage to deliver a heartbreaking tribute to her late son. Family drama instantly flares up when someone dismisses poor Grandma Polly's confusion. Susan gushes about how Will was a total golden child who made the family proud. She recalls how Will went all the way to Paris to pursue his dream of cooking. She highlights the moment he shocked everyone by returning home with his French wife, Alice. Susan mourns the tragic loss of the grand life Will and Alice were supposed to build. Her voice breaks as she laments never getting to see Will become a loving father. Desperate for closure, Susan begs the universe to give her son back. The pastor awkwardly steps up to quiet the room before turning the mic over to Alice. Alice steps forward looking totally lost and low-key unequipped to give a speech. Instead of speaking, Alice offers to play a song that meant the world to Will. She claims this specific track was literally played during their wedding ceremony. Suddenly, a loud, aggressive rap anthem blasts through the solemn funeral speakers. Explicit lyrics bounce off the church walls while the entire family sits in dead silence. The vibe in the room turns outrageously awkward as hard-hitting hip-hop echoes around. Susan looks completely cooked as the inappropriate song keeps playing on full blast. The absurd contrast between grief and raw rap music leaves everyone utterly speechless. Alice just stands there in silence while the track drops references to lost friends. After the service, Edgar desperately begs the crematorium staff for one last look at Will. The worker warns him that visitors aren't supposed to be back near the flames. Edgar gets super aggressive, demanding a single moment to mourn his boy. The staff member breaks protocol and secretly grants Edgar 5 private minutes. Edgar rushes into the back room and suddenly panics, screaming inside the fiery chamber. Chaos breaks out in the crematorium as Edgar loses his mind screaming for help. Cut to the car, where the family is driving down a deserted road toward the old house. Alice senses major bad energy, feeling like the family secretly despises her. Joseph tries to play peacemaker, insisting everybody considers her real family. He tries reassuring her by saying Susan appreciated her agreeing to the cremation. Then Joseph drops the filter and admits his father Edgar straight up hates her. They pull up to the family estate, which is looking creepy, abandoned, and dilapidated. Alice mentions a wild core memory, pointing out that she and Will actually got hitched right here. Inside, Grandma Polly is wandering around totally confused about what time of day it is. Susan corners Joseph the minute he walks in, furious that Alice was brought along. Susan gets triggered seeing Will's old belongings still cluttering up the house. Joseph admits he saved his grandfather's old things because throwing them felt wrong. Susan snaps back with pure venom, saying their grandfather tossed the family aside long ago. She reads aloud a disturbing passage from the grandfather's notes detailing demonic forces. Joseph claims he kept the creepy research because he's using it as lore for his novel. He tries to defend the old man, bringing up all the wild artifacts found overseas. Joseph reveals his grandfather was heavily involved with a secretive organization. Susan exposes the truth, shouting that it wasn't a cool club, but an utterly dangerous cult. She recounts how her dad abandoned his sick family to go hunting for dark scrolls. Susan scoffs at the idea that hunting ancient relics was ever going to protect them. She calls her father a coward who used ancient folklore as an escape from real life. Overwhelmed by stress, Susan pops her pills and orders Joseph to set up lunch. Suddenly, a commotion erupts in the hall as Grandma Polly tries escaping outside. The family rushes over to grab the confused grandmother before she gets hurt. Grandma Polly goes total main character syndrome, screaming that people are robbing her. She completely loses her mind, yelling for the cops while violently thrashing around. In the middle of the crazy struggle, a fragile personal item gets smashed to pieces. Out on the lawn, Edgar is frantically trying to fix a busted mower on the dead grass. Edgar snaps at Joseph, shaming him for letting the entire property rot into trash. His toxic anger flares up as he insults Joseph's complete lack of responsibility. Edgar starts aggressively pounding on the locked doors to force his way into the house. Joseph desperately tries to de-escalate his father's terrifying, volatile behavior. A moment later, Edgar crashes down the cellar stairs with a brutal, loud thud. Embarrassed by his fall, Edgar plays it off by lying that he just dropped some dishes. He hands over a strange, delicate artifact, strictly warning everyone not to break it. Alice recognizes the sculpture as Niobe, a tragic figure from Greek folklore. Susan reveals that this tragic, grief-stricken queen happens to be Edgar's favorite artwork. Susan opens up to Alice, confessing how family tragedy forced her to abandon her art dreams. She drops a chillingly codependent truth, admitting she has zero purpose without her family. Joseph sets up a video camera on a tripod as the entire family gathers for dinner. Susan aggressively blocks anyone from sitting in the empty spot meant for her dead son. In an unsettling twist, Edgar's dementia flares up and he asks when Will is arriving. The eerie mood hangs heavy until Susan quickly asks Edgar to pour the wine. Susan serves the meal, openly admitting she low-key just microwaved cheap frozen food. Joseph tries to play nice by complimenting the meal, but the tension in the room is high. Edgar immediately shuts him down, disgusted by the lazy frozen dinner on paper plates. Edgar takes a direct shot at Alice, claiming a real restaurant owner should know real food. Alice awkwardly admits to the table that she isn't even sure if she wants the restaurant. Edgar refuses to drop it, aggressively demanding they hash out the business deal right now. He points out that Will and Alice built the entire business as a team. Alice defends herself, clarifying that Will handled all the actual cooking while she did math. Alice low-key drops a bombshell that she might pack up and move back to France. The family instantly shuts it down because leaving isn't an option right now. Susan starts pressuring her to take over the family business like it's no big deal. She demands that every single piece of dirty laundry gets laid out on the table. The atmosphere gets so heated that people are literally losing their minds. Susan brutally snaps at Alice, showing off her toxic main character energy. Alice gets publicly shamed just for sitting down in her dead husband's chair. Personal trauma gets weaponized as the conversation spirals completely out of control. The whole family is cooked, tearing each other apart with pure venom. Alice refuses to take the bait and stands her ground against the manipulation. Susan pulls the ultimate mom card to silence everyone in the room. Edgar chimed in with pure disrespect, trying to destroy her self-esteem. Thea tries to de-escalate the drama, but the vibes are beyond saving. Suddenly Edgar notices her ring finger is completely bare and flips out. He instantly accuses her of pawning off her husband's ring for fast cash. Edgar calmly asks for a sharp corkscrew, sending absolute red flags everywhere. He literally starts roasting her outfit at her own husband's funeral. He points out that she hasn't shed a single tear, calling her heartless. Someone tries to explain that grief affects everyone differently, but nobody listens. Edgar goes full psycho, aggressively invading her personal space. He claims her presence is bringing a cursed plague upon the whole family. Then he drops a massive bomb, outright accusing Alice of murder. He screams that she should have tackled Will before he got behind the wheel. Alice is completely stunned that he's trying to frame her for the accident. The argument reaches peak toxicity as wild accusations fill the room. She fires back with facts, reminding him that he didn't stop Will either. Alice officially snaps and tells every single one of them to back off. She hits them with a brutal reality check, saying they're glad he is gone. Someone tries to say Will is watching over them from heaven like an angel. Alice viciously replies that Will is definitely burning 6 feet under. Out of nowhere, high-pitched shrieks echo from outside as the dog is attacked. Everyone jumps up in sheer panic as the violent reality sets in. Thea starts screaming for help as blood literally pools on the porch. Joe dashes out to grab Edgar, who is acting completely insane. The rest of the family scrambles in terror as chaos takes over. Joe cannot believe his father has completely lost his mind. They realize in sheer horror that Edgar just brutally butchered the family dog. Crimson blood is splattered everywhere, transforming the home into a nightmare. Joe gasps when he sees Edgar turn his violent rage directly onto Thea. Edgar puts Thea in a deadly chokehold with a demonic look in his eyes. Thea screams for Joe to use the gun and shoot him before it's too late. Edgar sinisterly grins and dares his own son to pull the trigger. Suddenly, a chilling vintage tape player begins narrating the lore of the curse. The voice explains that reading from the Book of the Dead released pure evil. Just 4 ancient forbidden words unlocked the gates of hell itself. The narrator reveals he found a legendary weapon forged to slay demons. This ancient blade was crafted by the mysterious circle of the wise men. Even the smallest scratch from this weapon will rip a demonic soul apart. The previous owner hid the blade to protect his family before vanishing. Alice violently snaps out of the trance as the creepy tape recording ends. She finds Joe trembling in the dark as the house goes completely silent. Joe breaks down and tells her that his father just murdered Thea. Terrifying violent banging shakes the front door, echoing through the halls. A demonic distorted voice starts taunting them from the other side of the door. The evil entity makes fun of their dysfunctional family secrets with sadistic joy. Fake crying echoes through the hallway, trying to lure them into a trap. Alice frantically asks where the murderer went as dread sets in. Joe knows they have to evacuate immediately or they are completely cooked. Susan gets dragged into the dark in a terrifying, unexpected jump scare. The possessed mother screeches venomous insults at her surviving kid. Edgar is standing frozen in the dark like a terrifying horror villain. They realize all the exit doors are jammed, trapping them inside with monsters. The possessed grandmother creeps up to the door, whispering like a nightmare. She viciously accuses the kids of stealing ancient sacred relics. Joe desperately checks on his traumatized mother to see if she's alive. Grandma begins wildly chanting about destroying the ancient holy order. She promises to wipe out the wise men's legacy once and for all. Joe tries to rush Grandma upstairs to get her away from the carnage. Susan's possessed body acts completely unhinged and crazy jealous. She hurls dark insults, showing her mind is completely taken over. The demon reveals it needs a specific memory locked inside Joe's brain. The possessed entities scream for them to hand over the location of the dagger. The demonic family members begin turning on each other in twisted mind games. Susan lunges forward with demonic strength to finish the job. The demon taunts Joe for being too cowardly to shoot his own blood. Alice steps up with main character energy to draw the monster's focus. Grandma desperately tries to bribe them with cash under the mattress. The demon pokes Alice's forehead, trying to extract hidden memory codes. The entity declares that nobody in this cursed family will survive the night. Alice turns to Joe and demands to know the truth about the secret order. We kick off this chaotic finale with the wild revelation that the grandfather knew all about the legendary Book of the Dead. Turns out, the dark forces were summoned because someone dared to read from this cursed ancient text. Alice realizes the grandfather stashed ancient holy relics right up in the dusty old attic. The demons aren't just killing for fun, they are low-key hunting for a specific magical relic. Meanwhile, Susan tries to comfort her possessed mom with a wholesome bedtime routine, but the vibes are totally off. The possessed mother starts spouting sinister demon nonsense about reuniting the whole family in hell. Things go from weird to downright unhinged when Joseph steps in acting like an absolute creep. Joseph claims he is totally fine, but his dead eyes say he is completely cooked. He casually tells everyone that the flesh-eating demons are actually the good guys. According to Joseph, they just want back the deadly relic that the grandfather stole back in the day. And just like that, the demons drop the iconic name we've all been waiting for, the Kandarian dagger. The demonic family attacks Alice, telling her to stop getting in the way of their cursed reunion. Susan tries to bargain with the monsters, but you can't reason with ancient demonic evil. Joseph picks up a heavy weapon and is ready to end Alice once and for all. Alice bluffs in complete desperation, screaming that she knows exactly where the Kandarian dagger is hidden. The demon's eyes light up with pure greed because that dagger is the ultimate weapon of doom. An absolute brawl breaks out as everyone scrambles around the house in pure horror. Alice is urged to find the ancient blade before the Deadites get their nasty hands on it. The possessed mother starts psychologically torturing Alice, bringing up all her past trauma. She rubs salt in the wound by mentioning Alice's abusive ex-husband will in the most toxic way possible. The demon screams at her, demanding complete obedience while manipulating the family. In a downright insane scene, the demon tells Susan to use heavy machinery to rip Alice apart. They blame Alice for all the toxic drama that destroyed this unhinged household. Susan is being brainwashed to execute Alice in the name of her dead son. Alice manages to get the upper hand and taunts Susan for being an absolute puppet. With tension at an all-time high, Alice holds her ground like a true final girl. Susan breaks down, realizing her entire bloodline has been completely wiped out. She projects all her grief and anger directly onto Alice in a super bitter monologue. Alice is completely done with the guilt-tripping and hits back with straight main character energy. She exposes the dark truth about Will's abusive, monster-like behavior once and for all. Alice calls out Susan for covering up her son's evil actions this whole time. She boldly declares that Susan brought this demonic curse straight onto her own head. Alice walks away from the toxic drama, totally unbothered and ready to survive. Suddenly, Susan warns her that her abusive past is literally stalking her like a nightmare shadow. Then comes the iconic, chill-inducing line spoken by every Deadite ever, "You will be dead by dawn." Susan suddenly pretends to be helpless, begging Alice to help her stand. She snaps right back into demon mode, threatening to gut Alice with the ancient blade. The demonic entity insults Alice's legacy, trying to break her spirit. It taunts her that no one will ever find the legendary weapon in time. The monster lunges forward to put a brutal end to Alice's miserable life. It paints a gruesome picture of Alice dying bloody and forgotten in the attic. The demonic threats get insanely graphic as the villain completely loses its mind. The demon weaponizes Alice's deepest personal secrets against her in a ruthless attempt to break her sanity. It screams about the ancient order of wise men who failed to stop the dark forces. The monster snaps, charging straight at Alice like an absolute maniac. Alice snaps back, cursing out the demonic bloodline in the most satisfying way. She is forced to confront the haunting spirit of her toxic ex-husband hanging over her. Will's demonic vision reminds her of the final brutal words she told him before he died. The demonic entity of Will vows to drag her straight to hell with him. He perverts their wedding vows in the most twisted nightmare sequence possible. He tries to convince her that she cannot survive in this world without him. The monster tries to gaslight her into giving up the fight for survival. He insists that if he is dead, she has to die along with him. The demonic threat demands the exact location of the holy dagger one last time. It threatens to burn her alive if she does not hand over the ancient weapon immediately. Alice pulls out the legendary Kandarian dagger and drives it straight into the monster's chest. Even after delivering a fatal blow, the dark energy lingers heavily in the air. Exhausted and covered in demon blood, Alice sits outside and casually asks for a smoke like a total boss. She trash talks the absolute hell out of the horrors she just survived. The paramedics finally arrive at the scene of absolute carnage, completely clueless. The legless possessed grandmother lying on the ground plays innocent to trick the first responder. Then she violently attacks the paramedic, proving the Evil Dead curse is far from over. Cut to an epilogue at a creepy crematorium where a single mom brings her kid to work. The mom complains about working overtime, oblivious to the ancient terror lurking in the building. The curious kid points out the massive collection of unclaimed ashes sitting on the shelves. The mother explains that those urns belong to lost souls whose families never picked them up. She warns her kid not to mess with any of the creepy artifacts in the room. She steps away for a second to go check on the roaring incinerator machine. The child inspects the creepy names on the urns, realizing something terrifying is awake. Suddenly, a demonic voice echoes from the darkness, "Don't be scared, baby. Mommy's back." And just like that, the nightmare leaves us on the ultimate jaw-dropping cliffhanger. Alice survived the fight of her life, but the Necronomicon evil is officially out in the wild. If you made it this far, smash that like button and drop your wildest theory in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another ultimate movie breakdown. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we will catch you in the next epic video.